On Monday, she takes a walk with Johnny. On Tuesday, she has a talk with Jim. On Wednesday, she likes to dance with Tommy. On Thursday...
Hello, and welcome to another episode of My Index to Sex, the podcast where we talk about what happens when people pull out their hard-earned cash and also other parts of their anatomy in order to enjoy a professionally sexy time with a relative stranger. I'm Lynn Ferguson, a big vanilla Scottish woman living in the San Fernando Valley, which is currently very hot and completely not in a sexy way. And I am joined by my pal Sephe Haven, at one point America's #1 escort. In each episode, Sephe delves into the index box of all her past clients, and I ask her all the questions everyone really wants answered. I'm lying. That's what I should be doing. What I'll actually be doing is assigning the anonymous client on the card a name and clumsily trying to understand a world which is completely foreign to me. Anyway, so glad you could join us.
On Thursday, she takes a chance with Tim.
Yeah, we have a choice today. I have a couple that I pulled out. So I'll give you some. One is called Greek. It's all Greek to me.
Oh.
Ooh. And then one is called Mace. And one is called STDs. Well, it's not called that, but these are some cards that I pulled out.
So do you have, let me get this straight, you have a set of cards that tell you about, so are these STDs that you've had or STDs? Well, wait, do you know, I mean, no, like, I don't understand you in your index box. Like, if the tell me.
That's not been in my index box. Not had.
But if you've got an area that says STDs, what do you mean by that?
No. I don't have an area, but that's STDs. What I had was before to prepare for us today.
Right.
I was pulling some cards and I thought, well, who is this and who is that? And it's been so long, you know.
Yeah.
So some I would just look through and think, well, is this going to make a podcast or is this just boring? And so a couple of them I pulled and I thought, oh yes, this was the STD guy and this was the Mace guy and this was the Greek to me guy and this was the cards of all the girls. And, you know, so I pulled some out and I thought, well, any of those we could talk about.
What about I like the sound of the Greek to me guy. So was he Greek?
No.
Oh. But he was Greek when he was with you?
No.
Oh.
What happened was, well, how do I start this? Let's see.
What does his name begin with?
Let's just...
Achilles. We'll call him Achilles.
Oh, yeah, that's Greek.
Right.
Because it's not Greek, but yeah. So what sometimes men would do is they would go through the websites, the girls' websites, and then they would write you or leave a message on your voice machine, and they would say, you know, can we talk for a second? And I would get on the phone with them. We can't talk about anything sexual because if you talked about anything sexual and agreed to see the person, you could be arrested. So you just did very...
What do you talk about then? Do you talk about like whether there's a sale on or, you know, like... Because I talked to someone today, this is how you and I are different, right?
Okay.
Here, Sephe, is because I was talking to a friend of mine today who's a guy and he said, just to let you know, this week, Ralph's are doing a sale on chicken, right? So that's the kind of things that I would, but actually I went to Ralph's and they totally weren't, so he was lying to me. Men.
There's a writing class I take that you have to go to Ralph's to get a chicken, not for real, but in your writing, you have to put, I went to Ralph's to get a chicken and then just follow that line of thought until you break through in writing or something.
And have you done that one?
Yeah, it's good exercise.
And what happened in your story when you went to
It had
Ralph's?
nothing to do with Ralph's or the chicken. You just start out by writing, oh, I'm sitting in a room and the light is bright and I went to Ralph's to get a chicken, and your writing just kind of follows this nothingness path until your mind breaks through.
I totally disagree with you because there is no nothingness involved in going to Ralph's to get a chicken. I'm just saying to you. So anyway, what do you talk about? What were you talking about with Achilles? What sort of things? You can't do the sexy talk. So, because I'm guessing, Sephe, you have to do sort of sexy talk, but it's not sexy talk, right? So you can't actually be arrested for it, but they have to be enticed. So you'd have to go, oh, well, I went to Ralph's to get a wee chicken. Right, so that's my sexy talk.
That was very enticing.
That's why Mark is so unhappy. So what would you talk about?
Just, I think you have a career as an escort. Well, what would happen at that period of time was I had a website. All the girls had their own website, so they could page through your website and be enticed. And then at the very end, if they wanted to book an appointment with you, they would call the number, which would go to your phone machine, in which you had a very long message. Hi, you have reached Sasha, and I would really love to see you. And in order to see you, I need to get your real first name, your real last name, and blah, 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 a lot of screening stuff. And then they would leave a message. And so every so often, a man would leave a message that besides the date and time that he wanted to see you, he would say, I wanted to talk to you about, do you do, but in a very discreet way,
Do you do fricassee?
Well, it wasn't that, nobody asked me to do a chicken fricassee.
What, a wee kedgeree? What you do, wee kedgeree? What kind of things are they asking? Do you mean, are they asking like for dominance or non? Is it that kind of thing or?
Well, in that case, like, let's say it was that. Somebody might say, am I allowed to bring over my own costumes?
Oh.
Something like that, which usually meant that it was somebody who wanted to bring over some lingerie that he wanted to wear.
Oh.
Things like that, because he was secretive about that.
Did you ever get someone who brought over their own costumes and it was like Batman or anything like that?
No, not Batman, but Superman. I had a... Oh my God.
Was that Achilles or was that just a completely different guy?
Well, that was a different person, and it was really fascinating because I knew he had brought something, and he wouldn't come in and just sit down and have a normal first 15 minutes of getting to... He was very tense and wanted to get on whatever he got on. He said, yeah, needed to use the bathroom, and he was going to come out changed, and was that okay? And I said, absolutely. But he had a very tense nature, so had he not had such a tense nature, I think it would have been funner because... But he had such a, this was all important. If this didn't go well, the costume, then the whole thing wasn't going to go well. There was no leeway.
I have to say, on a practical level, and it's because I'm from Cumbernauld, that I'm thinking practically, that I'm just thinking that if somebody was doing sexy time, if a man wanted to do sexy time, he would not choose a superhero that had his underpants over his actual trousers.
I have to say, it was very difficult, yes.
What did you do? Because Achilles, we're not doing Achilles. Listener, you're going to have to come back in the next episode if you're an Achilles person. We're on Superman. No, Superman. We're on Superman and groceries. That's where we are, right? Bringing costumes.
You're very bossy.
I'm bossy. No, just you've brought up this thing that I never thought about before, and then now that you've brought it up, it's like a Shangri-La inside my head. Which is, can I bring over my own costumes, right? I'm just like, no shit, right?
Because you know why? I mean, this is not just about Superman, but about other people who brought over. For instance, they would shop perhaps at Victoria's Secret, which was kind of the catalog at the time. And instead of buying, they'd buy a size extra, extra, extra large because they were a grown man. And so they'd bring over nice lingerie with stockings, thigh-high stockings and things like that. And usually these men were beautiful men. Like if I saw them walking down the street, I'd be like, oh, he's hot. And they were beautiful and straight, and they had a wife or kids or, it was living very straight lives. And one person, I liked him so much. I just thought he was the nicest person. And it was kind of fun because he'd put this dress on, the Victoria's Secret negligee. And I had this huge full-length mirror. And so the lights were all dim, and we'd stand in front of it, and I would stand behind him and bring my hands in front of him and run them down him as if he was being touched by somebody and he could view it, he could watch
like the Janet Jackson album cover, that thing where she's standing, she's got somebody with hands over her boob.
Oh, okay, and it was kind of sexy for him to watch himself because what he liked the feeling of the fabric, and he liked to feel for a second that femininity in himself, which men are not allowed to feel if they're straight usually, And so one time after we finished praying and we were sitting around or laying around, and I said, he had such a good marriage and everything. And I said, don't think that your wife would be okay with this? He said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It would be a divorce. And why does it need to be? I mean, something that I could do once a month and be fine. And he liked the anticipation of it and the buying of it, and then he would always leave it with me. And I would have, so Lynn, I lived in a really tiny, teeny, tiny New York apartment. It was probably 700 square feet with two teeny, tiny closets that barely held my stuff. and one long dresser. And inside that closet, all these people would leave me their stuff because they didn't want to be caught with it. So I would have men's big lingerie and men's, dildos and toys that they couldn't take home or didn't want to take home. And so I had it was like a humidor of shoeboxes inside my closet with men's names. It was like John P, John F, John Z, and then moving on, Keith, Q, whatever.
Did they use them when they came back? I mean, did you store them for them, or they were like done with them?
Well, if they were done, then I didn't think I was going to see them again, I would just toss them. But usually, having their stuff there actually brought them back too, because the stuff was there, and they didn't have to risk, going to the sex store or getting an order from Victoria's Secret somewhere, that they couldn't explain.
I'm so desperate to know about Superman. Did he arrive more than once? I mean, it must have been difficult for him coming to see you because he had the whole world to be saving at the time.
So there was a time issue, yeah. I know, and there's phone booths, and at the time there were phone booths, so he could Clark Kent himself. But he came in and he was quite tense, and that made me tense because I was worried about untensing him. And I was thinking, well, we're going to have a great time, so you don't have to worry about it. But anyway, he went into the bathroom. I had no idea what he had brought. So it could have just been a negligee. I don't know. But he brought something. And this was the most elaborate something that anybody had ever brought. So he went into my teeny tiny bathroom. It's so tiny that when I turned around, I would sometimes hit my head on the wall. That's how small this bathroom was. And so he came out in a full, not like from the costume store, but like as if it was made on a movie set.
Holy moly, where did you get it?
I don't know, but it was and it had a cape. Remember that movie? No capes, no capes. Incredible. But yeah, so it had a long cape, big long red cape, and like you said, panties on the outside, big stocky red undies on the outside.
Was he a big man or a small man? Was he a little Superman?
He was about maybe 5'8" and maybe 170 or 165. Not huge.
And was he fit or was he?
Well, he was in good shape. But he did kind of look like Clark Kent because he wore big black reading, seeing glasses. Not old. He was probably at the time maybe in his late 30s.
Right.
But he came out of the bathroom with a whole different walk. It was more of a strut. And it's funny because I've had so many years before I even went to Juilliard, and then I went to Juilliard, and then I acted for a long time. So maybe before that I had 15 years of acting and writing, and I couldn't figure out what to do. Everything went away. I was like, I don't know what game I don't know how to write this. And
be fair, right? To be fair to you, I have to say, right, that even now in my ripe old age, if somebody went, can I use your bathroom? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And then they came out dressed as Superman with the underpants and the cape and everything. I don't know that I would know what to do there. I think that most people would struggle there.
Thank you. I put so much pressure on myself. I should know what to do. Why don't I know?
Or was Clark, you were his kryptonite. Was Clark married? Was he married or was he?
I don't remember that about him, but I just remember him being a bit, I don't know if I want to say off, but there was something about him that was tightly wound.
Yeah.
He was the sort of a perfectionist. Things had to be perfectly perfect to fit whatever he had going on in his mind. Otherwise, it wasn't going to work. And that made me very tense because there was no flow and no room in that. So I don't quite remember what scenario I thought. I truly don't. I blank on it. But I know we played kind of a, I was a damsel and I fell over my sofa or whatever, had a red velvet sofa accident or something.
As you do.
He had to scoop me up and carry me into the bedroom, which is not that far away in a small, tiny apartment.
You end up in because how you've got your box of the index box of we're fine, and then you've got the box of never, never, never again.
No, he didn't. He didn't end up in that. Never. No, that box is called the blacklist box,
right?
And that's just as full as the other box, actually. But that is from people who do something that other girls have called and said he didn't pay me.
Right.
Or he made appointment after appointment and it never showed up and didn't pay me for the cancellation. or that somebody heard that he was a cop, or things that were dangerous to you. So clients like that don't even end up there. What they do is end up in the index box, but I have a big warning for myself, like a stick-em on it, going, don't see, telling myself don't see, as if I would see them if I didn't tell myself not to see them. Like I have to listen to somebody. Who's in charge?
I'm desperate to know whether you saw Clark more than once, and whether he was like, maybe he was Spider-Man next week, or he could have gone through the whole of the Power Rangers. Do you know what I mean?
Gone through it all. Although I don't think Power Rangers was out then.
Oh, really?
He was 3 Power Rangers, yeah. But no, I don't remember seeing him again as Superman. He might have come back just as Clark. I don't know. I couldn't find his card. I wasn't really looking for it, but I haven't found his card, so I could go look for it next time.
Yeah, Clark Kent. Because there is that thing about, what did he want, bless him, Clark? Do you know what I mean? Do you think he just wanted to be special?
No, sometimes people, I noticed, had very specific things that turned them on, and you had to hit those notes. It wasn't a lot of room. And they know what it was, and that's why they saw professionals. Because if they were in a real life situation with a real girl, she's not going to hit those notes. You can't just go on a date and walk into somebody's bathroom and come out as Superman. It's cool, you can, but I don't know how long that lasts.
And if there's alcohol involved, probably.
Oh, that's right. I made him on maps.com.
Mark had this guy, a friend. No, not a guy, just a friend. People have friends, right? So he had this friend, and this friend had lived in an apartment in Glasgow. And then he'd moved out and he moved somewhere else. And then he went to a bar and he got so drunk and he left to go home. And for some reason, he still had the keys to the old apartment. And he went to the old apartment and decided that he wanted a bath because he was, drunk. And he got in the bath and then started looking around. And he was like, that's not my shampoo. And then he realized he was he'd moved out of the house. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know that maybe alcohol could get someone to a case of where they go out and then suddenly find themselves dressed as Superman. But I wonder if that's what happened to Clark. I already feel like I want to take Clark aside and go, sweetie, what happened?
I know. There were times that I felt like that I felt like, I don't know what happened, but I'm glad that you found me, because I'm nice and compassionate and I'm not judgmental. So it was always like, okay, let's see what the next improv will be. Whereas I did have, there was some girls that I worked with that were just the same, and they were wonderful and fun, and life was a blast with them. And then there were other girls who would call and say, I'm sending you over this guy. I can't stand him. And, maybe Superman would have been one of them. That didn't happen to me with Superman, but girls would send over. And I think, no trouble. I don't know. I mean, just because he likes to have cookie crumbs on his penis, I don't know. That's not a problem. There
are times, Sephe, where I feel like we're having just a normal conversation. We're just like talking about stuff, and you're sharing your stories, and I'm sharing my stories. And we talk, and then you go, I don't know, there's nothing wrong with him just because he wanted cookie crumbs on his penis. And then I remember. We are intrinsically different.
A little bit different. We're probably similar, but our experience is slightly different.
In terms of costumes, was it just generally lingerie and Superman, and that was about it?
Well, there was rubberized clothing, but I hated when people wanted me to wear that or they wanted to wear that, because it's really difficult to put on. And it's made of like a rubbery thing.
Yeah.
And they're expensive to buy because they're really made kind of custom-y. But to put them on, you almost have to put talcum powder on your body as you put them on. So it's messy, and the room's got talcum powder in it, and you got to wash it off, and then suddenly you have to be sexy with it, and if you have to pee, that's a problem.
Yeah.
A lot of them have a little hole, like you had talked about when you were playing a brothel.
And I was acting as a brothel madam. Right? I had a zipper over my front bottom. I had a zipper. It stayed zipped. It's one of those things about why I would never go camping. That whole thing, I bet you people who wear the sexy rubber costumes are really good at camping.
Oh, yeah, probably.
because they can deal with that thing. I imagine the rubber thing, unless it's especially yours, is sort of unpleasant because there's something about rubber where it retains
moisture.
Yes. So they would be wearing the costume that somebody else.
Well, you would wear your own. Like I had to buy one for myself, but I just hated when people wanted me to wear it. On the other hand, I looked fantastic in it because, it pulls you in and you look like a superhero. You do look like Superwoman. You're just so hot looking because it's already made to look a certain way. You just have to mush yourself into it, and I don't know where the rest of the fat goes, like where it goes, but like your boobs get bigger. I don't just the fat moves somewhere because, your waist is like 20 inches and suddenly you're a 38 triple F.
Wow. I love the idea of your New York closets filled with rubber things and oversized underwear, right? Like just lingerie for a giant.
I guess I didn't think about it till I was moving out many, many years later. And I had just these stacks and stacks of boxes with men's names on them. And it reminded me because back in the olden days, you could smoke in bars and they had these cigar bars. And so men would go to the cigar bar that they went to and they had their own humidor and it had their name on it. And they paid kind of a rental to have their own humidor with their own stock of stuff in it. And then they'd take their Cohiba out and slice it and go sit at the bar and smoke there. And I had that in my apartment, but it was just filled with dildos and sex toys and lingerie.
How do you store a dildo? I mean, do you have to disinfect it and clean it all before you put it away? Because otherwise, I'd imagine it could be.
No, you definitely clean them. Yeah, definitely. I had a girlfriend that was. I've known her since we started. I love her madly, but she would call me and put the phone on speaker. This is years later. And she would say, it was Saturday morning. She said, well, I'm making pancakes while I'm washing all my sex toys. And so you make a big bath in the sink and you stick them all in and you got bleach and you got all the disinfectant and you kind of got your rubber gloves on and you wash. And then you stick them in the dryer rack.
Wow.
Yeah. So if somebody came to your apartment, it would be like, well, I'm making pancakes and drying dildos.
I tell you, if your house ever got burgled during that would be a time. Do you know you could stop the whole of crime by doing that? But like getting dildos drying on the dish rack, and then the person could come into the house looking to steal your valuables, see all the dildos, and just as they thought that wasn't scary enough, then Superman, he could come out of the bathroom and go, "That's it. You're against the law."
Full stop safety method. It's funny because it's such a regular part of your life when I was in that life, you don't think about it. And one night I did have a friend come over. She just a friend from my real life. And there were things out. And I thought, there's a dildo sticking out of there. Gotta hide that away, just throw it in the refrigerator.
Did she notice or anything?
No, not that time. But there was a different time when I had a friend ask if she could stay at my apartment and I was going to be away with a client. So I thought, sure, why not? So I cleaned up as best as I could. And she stayed over and, that all went well. And then I saw her the next time and she said, this is a weird question. She said, and I'm only asking because I'm kind of amorous. And she said, I'm single and I just don't, and I'm lonely at times and I don't know. She goes, but you have like just staying in your, like I undid your bed and like condoms fell out on the floor and like there were condoms in your closet. They're just everywhere. And I thought, really? God, they were just everywhere apparently. Like stacks of them stuffed under mattresses because you never know where the guy's going to want us to get started. Oh. So I'd have them tucked in the sofa cushions and tucked in the, just because if he's getting started, I want to make sure I'm prepared.
How fast are you putting on condoms?
Well, it's not about fast. It's about, I guess at the time I was like, so in my real life, before I started the business, getting a guy to wear a condom was impossible. Like, I can't feel anything. Nobody's pullout game is for sure, as much as guys like to think so. And who's left with the consequences?
Absolutely.
Right? Or STDs or whatever it is. So I would be begging guys, and that, or they would do the thing back in my day, which is now called rape, but they would take it off midstream.
Wow.
Yeah, so it would go in with a condom and they'd be behind you and suddenly there would be no one. So when I came into the business, it was like no raincoat, no play. And it was a rule. And every guy knew that. And I think they were kind of grateful for it too, because they don't know where you've been.
Yeah.
Although I think escorts are really clean because they make sure. So then why did I go down that trick? Oh, because of the condom. So it wasn't a matter of fast. It was a matter of pulling it out and opening it in a sexy way. And then taking the moment to roll it down, and be sexy while you're rolling it down, So it became like a part of the fun.
Ah, I see. I just, in my mind, though, I'm like, I just don't know how you would do that with Superman with his pants on top of his. That's a really bad sex costume. Of all costumes that are bad, I think Superman has to be the worst in terms of sexiness.
Well, I think Batman too. Batman has like the blue pants underwear, the blue one. A lot of superheroes are not built for sex.
It's because they're meant to be saving the world, frankly. They're not meant to be getting it on. They're meant to be saving the world. That's the whole point of them being superheroes. They've got sacrifices to make. The next episode, we are talking Achilles. That's where we're going.
Okay. Oh,
Right.
that's the Greek, all Greek to me, guys.
The sweetheart of 6 other guys.
Well, that's all from us this episode. And I have to say, I feel we've all learned that it's not practical to be sexy and a superhero at the same time. And also that people in rubber suits are awfully good at camping. Join us again next time to hear about Achilles the Greek, who wasn't actually even a Greek, and also not called Achilles. I've been Lynn Ferguson talking to Sephe Haven, and this has been my Index to Sex. See you again next time.
She's the sweetheart of 6 other guys.
You have been listening to My Index to Sex, produced by Ferdal LLC. The music was performed by Chesney Hawkes, and you can learn more about Sephe Haven at sephehaven.com. Go to mitspodcast.com to check out the show notes for more details, including how to stay in touch, give feedback, and ask questions. All the best.
Sunday's my only time with that bozo of mine, 'cause she's the sweetheart of 6 other guys.